Hey, it's Mel. I hope you're doing well, and if you're new to the channel, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about a woman named Annette Herfkens, who in 1992 was the sole survivor of a plane crash. As always, I do put my sources in the description box down below, along with my Insta if you would like to follow me, and I also will be putting a playlist in the description box as well. So if you want to take a look at any unsolved cases that I've covered or talked about, feel free to. With that being said, let's get into today's video. Annette Herfkens, now aged 60, was born in Venezuela on the 29th of April 1961. She was born to a Dutch family and has an older sister named Evelyn, who is now aged 69 and is a retired politician. Annette has two kids, a boy and a girl, Max and Drewsgy. Now moving on to the incident that occurred in 1992. On the 14th of November, Airlines Flight 474, carrying 30 people including Annette and her fiancé Willem Pasji, took off from Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam and headed to their destination Nha Trang, which is a beach resort, also in Vietnam. Annette and Willem had been together for 13 years and they both worked as bankers. They had planned a 5-day romantic getaway. Willem was very eager to enjoy the trip and he had to actually persuade Annette to get on the plane. However, Annette was claustrophobic and Willem knew this. Annette did eventually get on the plane because she too wanted to enjoy the trip. Willem told Annette that the flight would only be 20 minutes. The plane was holding 24 passengers and 6 crew members, and this is where things took a turn for the worst. As the plane was flying over a mountain jungle, it suddenly dropped. Willem got nervous and there was another drop and then a big bang. The plane was heading down and people began screaming and yelling for help. Meanwhile, Annette was holding Willem's hand. Everything suddenly went black. The plane hit some trees, then a mountain, and then it flipped upside down. For whatever reason, at this time, Annette was not wearing a seatbelt, so she was thrown around the plane as it was going down. That is when everything went black and Annette fell unconscious. When she awoke, she found a seat on top of her. She pushed the seat off her, only to find her fiancé Willem sat in it. He was dead. He died instantly at age 36. Annette made friends with a businessman who was also injured like many others. Annette heard moaning and screaming. Some people were in absolute shock, but the noises would eventually end and only silence would remain as the crew and passengers would die one by one. The kind businessman who Annette had befriended actually gave her some clothes to wear as hers were torn, and he sadly died, leaving Annette all alone. Annette was also badly injured, having a fractured hip and leg, a collapsed lung, and a broken jaw, with the bone visible through the wound in her chin. Despite her situation, Annette stayed calm, meditating in the jungle. If it was me in that situation, the sole survivor of a plane crash, I'd be traumatized, I'd be shaking, I'd be having a panic attack, I'd be crying, I'd just be overall losing my shit. Congratulations for Annette for actually staying calm in that situation. Well done. Annette used yoga breathing techniques to help her cope with her collapsed lung. Leeches were all over her hands, her feet were swollen, and her toes were turning black. Annette remained in the plane, but soon the businessman's body began to decompose, so she pulled herself to another part of the plane. To drink water, Annette used insulation in the plane's wings to catch rainwater. Annette was starving and she actually began looking at the other passengers as potential food. She even thought about the 1972 Andes plane crash survivors who ended up eating their own passengers in order to survive. I know about that case. If you guys want me to talk about it, just drop a comment down below and I will. Despite her hunger, Annette didn't eat anyone. Meanwhile, Willem's family back in the Netherlands accepted the fact that the couple might be dead. A death notice soon emerged in the newspaper. But Annette's friend Jamie refused to believe that she was dead, so he flew to Vietnam to find her. On day 6 of survival, Annette's kidneys were failing and she felt like she was dying. Then on day 7, she had a near-death experience but survived. And then, thank God, a miracle happened and Annette was rescued. On day 8, a police officer along with a group of men went to the crash site. They didn't expect to find any survivors. The group of men were carrying body bags out of the wreckage and they eventually found Annette, who incredibly was still alive. The men carried her down the mountain and then she was airlifted to Ho Chi Minh City before being transferred to a hospital in Singapore. In hospital, Annette was surrounded by her friends and family who feared that she was dead. Annette had surgeries on her jaw and a series of skin grafts along with treatment for gangrene. She soon began to heal. On the 10th of December, while being carried on a stretcher, Annette attended Willem's funeral in the Netherlands. She described Willem as the love of her life. Annette got around by crawling on her hands and knees, but by New Year's Eve she was able to walk again. In February 1993, she returned to her banking job at Santander. For a period of time, Annette was angry at life and of losing her fiancé Willem. But after a few years passed, she ended up marrying her co-worker and friend Jamie, which reminder he was the person who refused to believe she was dead and went to Vietnam to search for her. The two married in secret, as back then office relationships were frowned upon. The couple settled in New York in 1996 and had 2 children together. However, their marriage fell apart and they got a divorce in 2014. Also, Annette's son Max was diagnosed with autism, but he is doing well. The cause of the crash is still unknown. Annette wrote a book about her experience called Turbulence, A True Story of Survival, which was published in January 2014. While doing research for her book, she discovered that there had been 2 air crashes in the same jungle in November 1992. Also, while doing research, she had gone back to Vietnam to retrace her steps, visit the mountain and meet her rescuers, including Mr. K.O., who was the first person to spot Annette after her crash. Here's a quote from Annette. "A young girl approached me as I left for Ho Chi Minh City and she said, 'My father went to rescue you and he never came back.' The girl cried and fell into my arms. It turned out that a helicopter had been dispatched to get me off the mountain, but tragedy had struck as the aircraft also crashed. 8 people on board were killed, including the girl's father, who was a doctor." End quote. Annette struggled up the mountain where she made her peace with Willem and his memory. On the mountain, she left behind a small seal ornament, as that was a nickname that she gave Willem. Here's another quote from Annette. Quote, "It wasn't closure that I found back at that place, but an opening to my own future." End quote. So there you have it. That is the incredible true story of Annette Herfkens, the sole survivor of a plane crash. I can fully say that she is a strong, independent, brave woman, and I would honestly love to meet her. As always, let me know what you think about this case in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching. Take care. Bye.